Hello, my sweet friends, and welcome to DIY with Nadia. Today I am sharing my top 10 fall wreaths from last year. Let's get started. To get started on this wreath, I'm grabbing 88 20mm wooden beads. I'm going to be using white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum to paint them all white, and I'm simply putting them on skewers and then just painting away. Now I'm grabbing 22 14mm wooden beads, and I'm going to be painting them in a black chalk paint. You can definitely use acrylic paint for both the white and the black beads. Now my beads are nice and dry, and I gave them all just one coat of paint. This is the hardest part, and it's cutting the wire on top of that pumpkin, and we're just cutting the 6 inner loops, and we're just cutting them as close as we can get to that top form of the pumpkin. Now I'm just feeding the beads on, and I'm doing 3 white, 1 black, 3 white, 1 black. The 4 rows in the middle are going to use 4 black balls, and the 2 on the sides, they are going to be using 3 each because they are a little shorter. Before hot gluing the beads in place, I'm using some office paper clips to hold each row in place. To secure my beads onto the rows, I'm grabbing the second to the last bead in the row, putting a dollop of hot glue right in the middle, and then topping it off with the last bead. What this does is it unites the 2 top beads onto the wire, and they are not going to move anywhere. Now I'm attaching the rows back onto the pumpkin right where they were before. The stump of the pumpkin came off as I was removing the rows from the pumpkin, and here I'm just using a little bit of hot glue, and I'm hot gluing it back in place. To cover the edges of the pumpkin, I'm just grabbing some grosgrain ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and on a little bit of a slant, I'm just wrapping the ribbon all around the pumpkin. I'm using the spring lilac florals to add some color into this piece. I made 2 bundles and had one facing the left and the other bundle facing the right, and I attached both of the bundles with some wire from the Dollar Tree. To make the bow, I will be using this buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make a 6-loop bow, which means I prepared my tail, and then I'm just going to zigzag back and forth to my desired measurement, which in my case was about 8 inches, and I went back and forth until I saw that I had 3 loops on each side to make my 6-loop bow. Using that same wire, I attached the bow to the stem of my pumpkin, and now I'm just making little ducktails to the length that I wanted. When I was done with the bow, I felt like I needed a loop in the middle, which I forgot. So if you ever run into this situation, grab another piece of ribbon, make a little loop, overlap it in the middle, and then where you overlapped, just use a little piece of wire, bring it together, and then just attach it to the center of the bow. For this wreath or wall hanging, you are going to need 6 rolls of the orange Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree, and you are also going to need either zip ties, some floral wire, or even a chenille wire to attach the Deco mesh to the wreath. To get started, I'm just bringing the Deco mesh ending together, and using a zip tie, I'm tying it to the first row of the pumpkin. Now we're going to start weaving the pumpkin like a basket. The first loop that I made was going around the edge of the pumpkin, and then I'm just going to go forward. I'm going to go to the left, going in and out, around the edge, and then to the right, in and out, around the edge, and back and forth just the same. Keep on going, you guys, and just bring it together, making sure that it's not too tight. You want it to be a little bit on the looser end. That way, if you want to cover any of the green from the pumpkin, you can move the deco mesh around. Each time a roll ends, I just bring together the ending of one roll and the beginning of the other roll, overlap them, and bring them together with my zip tie. Then I continue weaving just like I have been doing. Coming towards the end of weaving my pumpkin, I wanted to show you that basically all the connections that I did have, you can see my white little zip ties. They're all in the back. I made sure to overlap the little deco mesh in the front so all the zip ties are hidden. When I'm done with the pumpkin, I'm taking the leftover tail from the deco mesh and I'm zip tying it to the top center of the pumpkin. To start my bow, I will be using this beautiful pumpkin ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm making 3 big loops, making sure I have tails left over on both ends. I then find my center and then bend my little loops in half just to make sure that I am at the center, and I'm going to give 2 notches, one on one side, just cutting through the wire. That's all I'm doing. I'm just cutting through the wire and stopping. So maybe 1/4 of an inch at the most. There you go. Now I'm grabbing some floral wire and I'm going to bring the bow together in the middle and just make the wire nice and tight on the bow. Now I'm just fluffing my bow out and making sure it looks nice on my pumpkin. Next, I'm grabbing some leftover fall ribbon and I made a simple bow and brought it together with a floral wire. Next, I decided to grab this gold netting ribbon, which is from the Dollar Tree. I got it last year. And I'm just trimming the edges, making a simple bow and layering it in between my first bow and my second bow. I felt like I needed to add a little bit more to the bow, so I'm grabbing this deco mesh tubing that I had left over from last year, and I made a simple bow and then just brought all the bows together with an extra piece of wire. Without cutting the wire, I attached the bow straight onto the stump part of the pumpkin. To complete the bow, I'm grabbing both of my wired ribbon and I'm making little ducktails, and then I did trim the gold ribbon also just to make sure it's nice and even. The florals I'll be adding are these beautiful mums and dahlias, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 flowers for each side. So I'm going to take 2 dahlias and 2 mums, make a little bit of a bouquet, bring the bouquet together with a little bit of floral wire and stick it to the left of the bow, and then do the same thing to the other side and stick it on the other side of the bow. I kept the stems of the flowers 4 to 5 inches long. Using a floral wire, I'm just making sure that everything is secure in the back, including the florals and my bow. Today we are doing something really interesting. So I found this elastic support bandage that is this gorgeous orange. I always try to look for unconventional things that I can make wreaths with, especially at the Dollar Tree. Okay, so we're going to take these little bands off, and you can just start pulling kind of taut. You don't have to even hot glue if you don't want, and just start going around. Now I'm just hot gluing it in place. All right, to decorate, I'm going to be using this little maple leaves bushel, and this is like the light maple leaves. And then I think I want to use some of this white ribbon because I want the decor to be a little bit on the lighter side. And this is from last year. I think they have this ribbon this year too. I'm just going to grab a little piece of floral wire, get a tail about 4 inches long, make a simple bow. I'm going to bring it together. I'm just twisting it in the back. And so the first thing I'm going to do is hot glue some leaves on here. I have some of these fuzzies from a previous project. They're from the Dollar Tree. And I want to put them over here too. Okay, now I'm going to see if I think I'm going to use 2 of these. And these are just white little or ivory little berries from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to put them in between these little guys. These berries are so full. I'm just going to snip a little bit from the back, and I'm actually going to use them in the center right here. I am going to do little ducktails. For this wreath, I'm going to be using Dollar Tree foam wreath, and we are using yarn that's also from the Dollar Tree. So the concept here is fairly easy. The first thing I'm going to do is tie a little knot, and then I'm just going to start to go around. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take orange yarn. This is from the Dollar Tree, and by the way, if you flip the little label over, you will see 9-inch ruler right inside. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but there's a 9-inch ruler right on the inside right here. So I'm going to start in the back. So we're going to loop it through and leave a little tail before we go around. And how I do it is just I try to keep it together. Now for the front, and we're gonna make a little bit of an angle and try to space these out fairly evenly. You can always fix this. Is not permanent, and you want to do it kind of loose so you can adjust it as you go along. Now here I am going to start going the other way. So I'm going to tie it right here. It doesn't have to be really tight. And what I like to do is kind of like do a shoelace tie. So you can always untie it in case you need it. Let me see here. I just did one of those. And now I'm ready to go the other way. And this is where you can adjust because you want that crisscross to be in the front top. Now I'm just going to untie this and then tie it with the one that we just finished with. And now you're completing that circle. If you're not sure, just do a little tie like this, and you could just hide it in the back until you're sure how you want everything done here. To decorate, there's many things you can do. I decided to do something cute, and because I had these mini pumpkins and I wanted to do something with those. I'm just going to grab 3 of these, and I want to hang them kind of like this. The nice thing about using a black strand, it can disappear and you can adjust it. Okay, so I'm just taking and tying it underneath this so it doesn't fall forward. We're just gonna hot glue it right here in place. So now I want to do a little bow for the front. So basically what I'm going to do is leave an 1-inch tail, kind of make a little 2 ears, and I'm going to just tie them. Bam, we have a little bow, kind of like we learned to do bunny ears when we were little. You can cut it as short as you want, but I thought it would be so adorable. Once again, 1 inch, bunny ear 1, bunny ear 2, and we're just gonna loop them. I'm gonna loop it over here, and I'm kind of going to just sink that little piece of thread in, and that way, let me see here, you can't even tell from the front. Okay, you guys, after playing with this for a little bit, what I found is you really want to tie it right in the middle, right here. This way the little pumpkin will hang nice and even in the center of the wreath. Okay, now that my pumpkins are attached, the last thing I'm going to do is permanently tie the orange thread now that I know we're all done. For this wreath, we are going to be using mesh tubing and of course the foam Dollar Tree wreath. I have 2.5 packs. This one I used previously, so we'll see how much I'm going to need. I find it best to keep it together when you're starting to work. And we are first going to hot glue the little tail in place. Okay, now that that is nice and secure, I'm going to start wrapping. You could make it flat, it's fine. So if you have a damaged one, sometimes they come kind of damaged like this. It really shouldn't be like that, but for this wreath, that's going to work just fine. And we're just going to wrap this tightly, and see, this is where it was, and it just goes around really nicely. And make sure you make it nice and compact so we don't see any of the green. Okay, we are 2 packs in. Okay, just a little dollop of glue and then continue. I'm going to hot glue it in place right here. Let's start with some of these flowers. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue these just to kind of get me started. Okay, so what I decided to do is grab another mom, and I'm going to put this one in between 2 of these. So at the end of the day, I'm having the hardest time deciding if I want the heather little beads to be right here or the willow, and I decided to use actually both. And these willow branches, you can definitely, if you don't need that length, you could definitely cut them in the middle and kind of double it right here. So this is just one branch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one right here facing up. I like this a lot. And I'm just going to hot glue this in place. And in case you're asking why am I not giving it any greens, I'm one of those people that I believe in the power of 3. Meaning, I do not like, if I'm doing something where it's, you know, something clean, I like no more than 3 colors. So this I consider color 1, this is color 2, this is color 3. Would I put something white in the back? If I had something white, I would. But the only thing I have that's white are these little berries. It's just going to be a little too much. But if I had these in ivory, I would probably put them along, probably. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and grab some of these berries, and these berries come from the ones where the leaf little bushels, like where the ivory yellowish leaves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going just to stick them throughout here and there. What do you guys think about the berries? Should I have stopped without them? To complete this wreath, I decided to get one of these 3 little pumpkins, and they have a little clip on them, and I'm just going to clip it to one of the plastic little floral holders. And I think this just gives it a beautiful fall feel. Alright you guys, let's get started. I'm going to have my Dollar Tree wreath, a good pair of scissors, and I have 2 yards each of this yellow right here, orange, and a brown. If you are going to use tool that's on a roll, that tool usually comes either 6 inches by 20, 25, or even shorter feet, just because sometimes when they have sparkles, they're shorter. But it usually averages at 25 feet by 6 inches on those rolls. Here, this is just regular kind of, I want to join fabrics. I got this fabric. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. So this is 54 inches, fold it in half. This is how it usually comes on a roll. I'm going to take this and just fold it in half. That's it. Now I'm just measuring off 6 inches right there. And I'm going to cut it. This is going to give me 4 pieces. Okay, here I'm going to cut the double here. And on the other side where my tool originally folded in half, the 54 inches, that's that. And then you have these long kind of, mine is 14 inches, which is kind of a lot. But let's see what it looks like on my, my wreath. So this will make a nice fluffy wreath. Now you have 2 techniques. At the end, I'm gonna ask you which technique you would prefer. So this is the first one. And this is the one I will be using today. So where you take it, you tie a knot, and then you take it again and you tie it a second knot. And there you go. Technique number 2 is where you take it, let me just undo this. You fold it in half, and then you take it and you just bring the little edges through the loop. Now, actually, maybe I might do this technique today. I don't know. And here you have a nice, kind of like this, and over here, it's nice. But then again, it's loose. The thing is, I'm going to have this where it's kind of windy. So this is the only reason I'm not using this technique. I love this technique because this is going to make all of them just look so smooth and so beautiful. But we are going to tie today because this wreath is going outside. It's going on my front door. And I don't want to worry about, you know, tightening them up in the middle of the season or anything like that. There you go. I made my tie. At the end, if I feel like this is too long, we're just going to even this out. But right now, I'm going to continue cutting and making my little loops. Alrighty, you guys, you know what? This was not as much of a headache as I thought it would be. This took me like maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes to do this. Super quick, super easy, and I got my 3 colors. So I'm just tying them in the middle and moving them. See, that's a nice thing too. It just moves so easily that if I didn't have enough of these, for example, and wanted to add another color, I can just, you know, move one over. That's it. Okay, you guys, what do you think so far? I have just a little bitty left here, and I still have some of my tulle left, and I am just pulling it really, really tight on the edges. So the good news here is this is just $7, you guys. $1 for the actual wreath, and I paid $2 each for each color, 1 yard each at 99 cents. And that's plenty of this tulle for this project. And then if you do want to embellish it with florals, which I want to do, that's going to be extra, you know, depending, or maybe it will cost you nothing if you have those florals on hand. So yeah, not bad at all. I really enjoyed doing this, and this is not, you know, one of those wreaths that sometimes take me hours and hours to make. This was fairly quick, and I'm just watching an episode of actually CSI, the original one from Las Vegas. But anyway, yeah, I'm just working it here, and yeah, plenty left. I'm just going to finish it up and then decide what florals I want to use and how I want to decorate, because this is, as I said, going on my front door. So I'm super excited about this one. I still have like this much left over of each color, but it's just so tight. As you can see, it's really tight here. Okay, and now the florals. All right, now it's time to get the florals together. I'm just using a little piece of wire, about 10 inches floral wire. And then I'm grabbing these bundles from the Dollar Tree. These were from the last year. I'm not sure if they had any this year. And then I'm sure you guys remember these. They have them throughout the year. I'm not using any greenery in the wreath because that's just going to defeat the purpose of that fall look. Now I'm going to take one of these pretty ones, and I'm going to attach them together. And so I'm working from top to bottom. Okay, see? They're just sitting there nicely. This one is going to come from the bottom going towards the top. So one more. And don't forget, our wreath is round, so we are working that way. Now I'm going to get, I want this pumpkin. In the inspiration piece, there was a little pumpkin, so I do want to make sure we work our little pumpkin in. And then I'm just going to use some of these as the background. They're really pretty orange leaves. This is working for me. This is absolutely working for me, and I love that I have some sticking out over here on top, some of this red working in over here. Oh, you guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to use another piece of floral wire to bring it all together. I'm just going to tighten it up here. And then this is going to go around the wreath. For the succulents wreath, I'm going to start by grabbing my fabric and cutting it into about 1-inch strips. As far as how much you will need, that will depend on how you wrap it around the wreath. So what I recommend is just do it one strip at a time and see how much you need as you go along. I just started with a little bit of hot glue to attach my fabric, and then I just started wrapping it around on an angle. Next, I'm grabbing these gorgeous succulent florals from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to twist them off the little pots that they're in. And then I grab some wire cutters and remove those stems so I can attach my succulents onto the wreath. And now I'm attaching my succulent flowers onto the wreath, and I'm going to put the yellow in between my two reds. While working with succulents, I have learned that using a stronger glue stick, like Gorilla glue sticks, is a better way to go because it will hold on to the fabric a lot better. I felt like something was missing, so I grabbed some Spanish moss, and I'm going to hot glue it around a little bit, but mostly on top and on the sides. To hang my wreath, I'm going to use a piece of ribbon that is almost see-through. I'm just tying it together in a knot, and I'm going to hide the knot in the back of the wreath when I display it. For this project, I do recommend a flat wreath. You can either cut out a cardboard piece, or like me, I am recycling a wreath I had on hand from before. It's nice and flat, so I knew it was going to work well. As you can see, I'm simply hot gluing the candy corn onto the wreath, and starting with my middle row, I'm facing all the candies in the same direction. When that middle row was complete, I'm grabbing more candy corn, and I'm starting to hot glue them facing the opposite way of that middle row. That means the inside row and the outside row are going to be facing the opposite direction of my candy corn. At the end of the day, it is such a beautiful design. I absolutely love it. Now, for any edible DIYs, it is important to seal them. You can seal them with whatever sealant you have on hand, or even with Mod Podge. For the bow, I'm using 260-inch ribbon. The first one is a black and white buffalo check, and the other one is an orange grosgrain ribbon. Next, I hot glued the orange ribbon onto the buffalo check ribbon. Then I found the center of the bow and made a simple bow. When I was done, I brought it together with a piece of wire. For a cute effect, I decided to add some ducktails for my bow. And I just cut from the outside to the inside while folding my ribbon in half. That way it's a nice even cut. To hang my wreath, I'm grabbing about a 6-inch piece of grosgrain ribbon, and I'm going to hot glue it to the back of the wreath, and then hot glue the bow straight in the center of the wreath. To start this project, we're going to need a few things. We need a cardboard for a base. Then you need some sort of a book. My book is about 6.5 inches by 9.5. And my book is a diet book, so I've used it before for a wreath. You know, who needs a diet book? So there you go. And we'll see what else I'm going to need. I'm one of those people who decorates as I go along, because I let the project tell me what the project wants a lot of the times. And this is one of those times. Okay. Then you are going to need something to cut your base. I am going to use this little bucket. It's from IKEA. And so the rim right here is 5 inches. And this is a little bit of a tape that I found. And this one is around 3 inches. So that way it gives me an inch all the way around. You can do this any way you want. You could use an X-Acto knife if you want, but I'm just making, little slits to the point where my inner circle is, and I'm just going to cut them off. It's going to be hidden. You're not going to be seeing the actual line, so it's not a big deal at all. Just cutting the bigger ones a little bit more there. One inch all the way around. Next, let's get the book. So I'm going to get my book, and I'm just going to use an X-Acto knife. Please be careful during this process. And I'm just going to put lots of pressure on it. Oh, this one looks like I still have it cut from last time. All right, I got my paper right here, and I think I'm going to need more, but that's all right. We can do that later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this sheet of paper lengthwise in an accordion style. A little bit less than an inch. Maybe that's an inch, actually. You know, this is freehand. I'm not trying to make this complicated. This is supposed to be a fun project. There you go. And back. And we have our little accordion. And now I'm just going to continue going right along about an inch. And the fun part about this project is you can decorate it whatever way you want to. I've seen it done with buttons. I've seen it done with little gemstones. It's just up to you how you want to do it, and you know what your style is. Just have fun with it. So when you're folding these, and I know they're not going to be the same, so if you want that last one to be the same, all you have to do is right before the last one, actually right here, make sure that this matches this, because see how this one is like, it should be right there, so obviously it's going to be smaller. But I kind of want the front and the back to be the same, because when we're going to fold these over, and if one of them is too short, it's just a little noticeable, but really this is not supposed to be anything difficult. So when it's like this, I just move it back so that the shorter fold is on the inside. And I just continue going. I'm going to finish up this stack right here, but I'm looking at how these are looking, and they're looking quite full and big. I'm not even sure we're going to need more than this. So we'll count them at the end. I'll let you know. But right now, I'm just going to sit here, relax, and just fold little fans. You know what? I am thinking about my childhood right now, because I used to love to do these. And we'll go outside and we'll fan ourselves, and we were so cute. Oh, those were the days, my friends. Alrighty, I think I'm just going to continue doing this, and I'll be back when I'm all done. I have 20 of these ready to go. I felt like that might be enough, especially that this is not that big. And all we're doing is just feeding it through and folding it in half. Now the two ways you can do this is just fold it in half as it is. I'm going to go maybe like 2/4 of an inch or maybe halfway through this, and then I'm going to make the fold. Okay, so a little hot glue right there where we're attaching, and then a little bit of hot glue right here, right there. I'm not going to go higher with the hot glue because I do want it to keep the fanning. Okay, let's grab the next one, fitting it through, and I'm going to go halfway on here. I'm going to skip one turn after doing 3 of these. We're going to skip a little bit and then do a few more, skip a little bit and do a few more. The reason I'm going to be doing this is as you're going through with each one, it's taking away from going to the edge. So it's going to end up like twisting it and being all strange. So I'm going to like skip one little area. We can always overlap later, and that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to skip almost an inch here. But make sure to turn it in the same direction. So I'm going to do it just like I did before. Now my little paper is against the actual wreath form versus here it started to come off. Okay, as I'm working, this is starting to fan out just a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring this one down a little bit. To be honest, when I started planning this wreath and thinking about it, I did not expect this to be fun actually, but I'm having a blast. Now I know I love making wreaths, but this is just so different and out of the book. I've seen this on Pinterest. I've also seen a few YouTubers try it. So I thought I'd give it a try and, you know, put my little spin on it. And this is just so much fun. I'm telling you, I did not expect to be having fun or this much fun. And here we go. This is number 20. Now I'm seeing that they're kind of like poofy a little bit. I don't know how poofy I want them to be like that. Okay. Now I'm just going around and hot gluing anywhere where it's sticking out just a little bit too much for my liking. Now, I wanted something kind of brownish to match my shells to work it all in, but I don't have it. I do have this kind of rusty gold. So I'm just going to kind of just, and it's on the drier side, and I'm just kind of literally just kind of, can you guys see a little bit there? I'm doing it in the air so it's not too, so I'm not too hard on it. And I'm just going to go around the edges of the paper and just kind of, do you see what I mean? I think maybe like that. There you go. This seems to be doing a better job. I'm absolutely loving the way this is coming out. A little bit on the, if you would have had a really wet ink pad, I would put it on a sponge, then do this, because it would just be too wet. But this is not new. This is kind of dried out. And I love that because I'm able to control how much I'm putting on here. I'm going heavy on a few of them, not all of them. And I can't stop myself is what it looks like. All right, all right, all right. Hands up. Went a little bit too much on there, but you know what? I love that. I absolutely love that. All right. Now it's time to put our little shells on. But before we do that, let's work the bow in. I'm starting with this black grosgrain from the Dollar Tree. First measuring out a tail, and I'm going kind of longer on it. You can always make it shorter, right? Can't make it longer, but you can always make it shorter. And I'm just going to hot glue it in place. Dab of hot glue. Okay, because the tails are a little bit sideways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up right here, and this is a little trick whenever you're working with grosgrain, and then just pull it in to where you want it. Don't worry about that fold. We're going to have other ribbon on it. And if, let's see here. I just want to pull this one back a little bit, just the same. While it's still hot, I'm going to pull it back on here. There you go. Because the other ribbon I will be using will have more of a flow. Okay. Let's put this aside. Here's our black one. Now I'm bringing in this one, and this is just a Farmhouse ribbon. Alright. From here I'm making my loops. That's gonna look good. Make them a tiny bit, like tiny bit smaller than the other one. See how this one's going to fall regardless, but the one that's grosgrain, we kind of had to put it in place because it's more of a sturdier ribbon, but it's still my favorite. I absolutely love it. Okay, for a third ribbon, I do want to use this lace from the Dollar Tree, and this is the ivory one. And we're gonna make this one smallest, especially that it is it's going to be flimsy. So that's why we wanna make it small. If you make this too big, it's not going to be pretty. Now careful hot gluing this because it is porous. Just going to put it right on top and then press and hold. A little hot glue right there. And we have a little 3-fold bow, and I'm going to put it on the side. That way we can put shells all around here. And hot glue it in place. Okay. As it happens in projects, we make up our minds and then we take it back. I just don't feel the shells here anymore. I just don't feel like they're gonna go, but I do feel like these little babies are gonna go, and these are the wooden beads, and I'm just going to take various sizes and start hot gluing them. And these are raw. I'm not going to stain them, nothing, just as they are. They're going to stand out on their own. This is going to be so super pretty. Starting with the big ones, I'm just going to put them around, and then I'm going to move on to the smaller ones. I just kept on hot gluing and burned my thumb a little bit. You know how it is. But kept on hot gluing, and then we're going to put one more right there in the middle of the bow. For the back, I decided to just grab a piece of the farmer's ribbon, and I'm just going to hot glue it this way. And you don't want to do it at the top. You want to do it towards the bottom here, because that is where the most weight is. So you want to do it towards there, and it'll hang fine. See, I'm doing it right now and it's fine. What do you guys think? This is totally different than what I usually do. This is kind of vintagey, kind of shabby chic here. And I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. Now I just gotta get all that glue gun spider webs out, and I'm ready to display. my iridescent pumpkin, I'm starting with a backsplash of black fabric. I just grabbed whatever black fabric I had on hand, and this one was shiny on one side and matte on the other one, so I decided to use the shiny part. All I'm doing now is measuring how much I need, and I basically needed a 24 by 24 inch piece. After cutting out my piece, I still went back and made sure that it fit before I moved on to my second fabric. And here is the fabric. I did get it at Joann Fabrics a long time ago, but they still have it, and they have different shades. This one in particular is actually pink fabric with green iridescence to it. It's so beautiful. It's amazing. So in order for this fabric to stand out really pretty against the black, I will be using 2 layers of this pink iridescent fabric. Now it's time to warm up the glue gun. I first placed my fabric straight onto my pumpkin, making sure it's in the center, and I'm going to start with the sides. I pinch the side, then I'm putting a little bit of hot glue on there, and then just hold it together. I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side of the pumpkin. That way you have it centered, and the rest of the pumpkin, you're just bringing in the fabric from all sides. As I'm moving along and hot gluing the fabric around my pumpkin, I am cutting off the excess, and I'm leaving about an inch all the way around. And this is what my pumpkin looked like when I was all done with the black fabric. Now moving on to the second fabric, and I'm going to do the 2 layers together. Same technique. I'm going to start on both sides, and then I'm just going to move in from all around. Now for the bow, I decided to do something different. I'm grabbing some light green Deco mesh, and I'm measuring out 30 inches. To make the bow, I'm gathering both endings of the Deco mesh, overlapping it, and making a bow in the middle. I'm going to bring the bow together with a chenille wire, but I'm going to twist it on top, not at the bottom, because the next bow I'm going to add right on top. To balance out a little bit of the pink that is in my iridescent fabric, I'm grabbing this Easter ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and without leaving a tail, I'm going to make 3 10-inch loops in order to make the bow. I find my middle, and then I'm going to notch it on both sides in the middle, just cutting through the wire. Leaving 2 inches on the end, I'm bringing it together with the chenille wire. After I was done with the bow, I thought something was missing. So I went back and made one more Deco mesh bow, and I attached it to the back and opposite side of the other one, so it makes a big beautiful flower out of the Deco mesh. Using that same chenille wire, I'm attaching the whole bow to the stem of the pumpkin. To complete the look, I'm grabbing some white berries, and I'm cutting down the stems to about 4 inches long. Now I'm just putting the berries in place, and I'm going to hot glue them. I put the berries on top a little bit closer to the center, and the ones at the bottom a little bit further from the center. That way it looks like they're cascading, and they're going out from the inside to the outside of the pumpkin. This pumpkin turned out very different, very unique, but I absolutely love it. What do you guys think? How did you think my wreaths turn out? When I make my wreaths, or when I design anything, I have certain people in mind when I'm doing them. And that's why I have the variety that I do in my styles. The black and white, though, it has to be me. I love my black and white. So that usually I start with those and then just move on. Anyway, you guys, let me know down below which one is your favorite. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, I love DIYs from the Dollar Tree and Trash to Treasures. Please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell and the thumbs up. With that being said, I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys. Mwah. Love ya. You're just adorable. You can't help it. You just can't help it. What are you going to do? I know. Let's take it now. Oh, let my yeah. Let's do some scratching, some back scratching. What can I say, you guys? I love my dog.